All right, now we start with some real geometry. Okay, we're going to start with 3 words. These 3 words, it's the beginning of chapter 1. So just find chapter 1 and turn to the first page, okay? So the three words that we're going to talk about today, the main words we're going to talk about today are point, line, and plane. Actually, these 3 words don't have an official geometry definition. So I'll never say, you know, define point or define line or define plane. There's no official definition for it. They're actually called undefined terms. They're undefined because there's really no definition for it, because a point doesn't really exist like we know things to exist. I can't really put my finger on it. I can kind of say where it's located, where a point's located, but you can't like pick up a point. Now, on paper, you got to figure out a way to label where points are. And so what we do is we usually use a dot to represent a point. It's not really a definition of a point. That dot in and of itself is not a point. It represents where a point in space actually is. Okay? Where's your notebook? Take some notes. You're not just going to sit there flapping your book all around. Okay? Do what I ask you to do. I'm going to get serious about this now. So a point is basically a location. We use a dot to represent a point, and if we wanted to label the point, we're going to put a capital A or whatever letter. It doesn't have to be A. I'm just using A for this. So in order to label a point, write it on your notes. Okay, even though I don't write, you know, label a point. Write in your notes. You label a point with a capital letter. All right, so here's a point. We label it with a capital letter. We've done that already in that little practice chapter that we had, you know, with, you know, putting the points on the order, you know, on the X and Y axis and all that kind of stuff, and putting a letter next to it. So a point is always a capital letter. All right, a line is basically, now these aren't official definitions. We're just describing what these things are. If you took and a point doesn't have any. It doesn't have any, what's the word I always say? It doesn't have any dimensions. It doesn't have any size. All right, you can't measure a point. A point is so small, it really doesn't have any dimensions at all. You can't measure it. But, you know, people say, well, if I blew this up real big and I looked at it, yeah, it's got some width and it's got some height. And if I actually made a mark on my paper, it would actually have a little bit of depth to it, okay? But that's just a representation of a point. An actual point doesn't really have any size whatsoever. But if I had like as many points as I could possibly put next to each other, I would get a thing called a line. So let's just draw a line. Now a line just keeps on going in both directions. All right, so a line keeps on going, never stops. So it goes one direction, it goes another direction, never, ever, ever stops. It goes infinitely. All right, so that's a line. Now, what we're concerned more about than anything is how to label a line. So it takes at least 2 points to make a line. So I'll put 2 points on this line right here. Now an actual line has an infinite number of points on it. But I can't sit here and label an infinite number of points. That'd take me a while, wouldn't it? In fact, it would take me all eternity because I could never label an infinite number of points. But I've decided to take 2 of those points on the line and label them. We'll call this, I don't know, we'll call it, use different letters, C and D. All right, we'll call it C and D. So if I have a point C and a point D, and a line that goes through it, some people say a straight line, but a line automatically is straight. So I don't even have to say a straight line, because every single line that we're going to draw is considered to be straight, okay? No curves or anything like that. So here's a line. It goes through point C and point D. Here's what I really want you to understand how to do, is how to label this line. So if I know 2 points, I could call this line CD. So I put capital C and capital D next to each other, and I put a little line symbol over top. That one on the right doesn't look so great. Let's try it again. That looks a little better. All right, this would be line CD. So if you see something that looks like this, that means line CD. It means on our line, I know at least one of the points is point C and one of the points is point D. Does that make sense? All right, pretty easy. This is just, you know, when you think of math, the stuff we're doing today is not the stuff that you normally think of when you think of math. This is kind of all vocab stuff, and it's how to label things. It's almost like another language, okay? Geometry really has its own language, and that's what we're trying to do right now. We're trying to figure out what the language is, and so that we all speak the same language. So let me put that CD right there. Okay, or here's another way we could say it. It doesn't have to start with the left-hand point and go to the right, because this line could have been slanted, right? I'm not going to do that, but it could have been slanted. You know, it could be going up and down. It could be going all kinds of directions. So I call this line CD, or I could call it line DC. It doesn't matter what order the 2 points go in. All right? So those are two things that I could call this line right here. So far, that's about the only thing you could call this line. But what if I stuck other points in here? There could be more points on this line. There could be a point here. There could be a point here. There could be a point over here. And what if we label those? Let's call that A and B and, I don't know, E. All right? Now, look, I got a bunch of points on this line. I could still call this line CD if I wanted to, because as long as we got those 2 points on that line, that's what I can call that line. I could call it DC, because I could go in another order. What are some other things I might be able to call this line, do you think? Okay, I could call it AE, right? And I put the little line symbol over top of it. Make sure you put arrows on it. What's another thing I could call this line? There's a bunch of things. Okay, BA, all right? BA is one. Now, you could always reverse these, too. If I called it AE, I could also call it what? EA, right? If I called it BA, I could also call it AB. Is there anything else, any other combinations that we haven't? What'd you say, Josh? AC? Yeah, we could call it AC. Or I could call it CA, right? We won't do all the opposites. What's another one? DE? Okay, DE, yeah. Or we could call it ED, right? What's another one? No, I'm not going to add any more. Just using the points that we have right here. BE, right? And or we could call it EB. Have we covered everything? Now, you only use 2 points. You only use 2 points. Okay, what? BD. Did we use BD yet? No, we haven't, have we? So BD, you could call it that. Now, you could go the other way as well, right? You could call it DB, or you could call it EB. You get it? So if I got a whole bunch of points on there, look, there's all kinds of things I could name this line. Any of those you could use. What I would probably do to be consistent, if you have questions in the book and stuff, a lot of times, you don't have to do this, okay, but a lot of times I like to use the ones that we know at the ends. So if I was going to call this line, I'd probably call it AE. But that doesn't mean that's the only thing you can call the line. It's not necessarily the best way to name that line. It's just one of the ways to name this line. Okay? You could go all these different ways to name that. Does that make sense? We're going to be doing this really throughout the rest of the year. You Mike writing all this stuff down? Okay? Let's get a pencil in your hand then. All right? Do something. All right. So that's what we do with lines. All right? That's it. What was the third word that we had? Plane. Okay? I'm going to try to I'll draw what they usually use to represent a plane. And they usually slant it a little bit, and I can slant it using this thing right here. And let's go, I don't know, like 30 degrees. Okay? So this is what you normally see. Let's pay attention, please. This is what you normally see when you're gonna see a plane. A plane is basically this. It's basically just a flat surface. It's not an official definition or anything. P-L-A-N-E. Okay, we wrote it down earlier. It's a plane. Just draw it the best you can. Look, this represents a plane. Any flat surface represents a plane. The ceiling represents a plane. The wall represents a plane. The floor represents a plane. The top of this book right here, it represents a plane. A plane is basically just a flat surface. Okay? So a flat surface is considered to be a plane. Now, a plane is actually made up of a whole bunch of lines. So what's true about lines? They keep doing what? They keep going forever and ever and ever, right? There's lines on this wall or this ceiling right here, aren't there? But these lines actually stop, but it represents a line, and the line would actually keep going in both directions. A plane is the same way. The top of this little notebook right here represents, it's a flat surface, it represents a plane. But what does a plane do? Let's wake up. Let's pay attention. Let's everybody look up here. What does this plane do? It doesn't just end right here. A plane doesn't really have edges. Now, when we write it on paper or a board or something like that, there's no way to make sure that that plane keeps on going forever and ever. You just can't draw it that way. Okay, but we have to stop it. So this plane on the overhead right there, it looks like it has edges, looks like it stops, doesn't it? But you have to use your imagination a little bit and think, wait a minute, that plane does keep on going forever. Yeah, because you'd never be able to see it, would you? All right, so this represents a plane, but it just keeps on going. Pretend this flat surface kept on going in that direction, in this direction, all these directions. That would be an actual plane. This just represents where a plane is. Even the ceiling, it's really big. It goes on for a long time, right? But it eventually stops. It just represents where a plane is located. Does that make any sense about a plane? All right, so let's now take a look and let's learn how to label the planes. Okay, let's label this plane. Most of the time we use they use kind of like a fancy, if you look in the book, it's kind of like a fancy, real cursive looking letter. You can use any letter at all. Let's use capital P. And use a capital letter. And it could be in any of the corners. It doesn't have to be in the top right-hand corner. It could be down here, over here, or over here. All right? But when we're going to label a plane, we're just going to put a capital letter. Now, we don't have like a symbol, like a line had a symbol over top of it. We don't have that for planes. We have this. We just write the word plane, so we call that plane P. Here's another way that you could label a plane. Now remember, we could use 2 points to label a line. For a plane, it takes 3. Okay, it takes 3 points that don't lie on the same line. So we'll call this ABC. So these are 3 points that lie on the plane. Okay, think of the flat surface and think of 3 points being on that flat surface. If I know 3 points on that flat surface, I could use those 3 points to name the plane as well. So I could call it plane P, or, put an or right here, I could call it plane, what are my 3 points on the plane? ABC. So that's another one. So I could just use one, but remember, in the book, it's usually like a fancy, crazy looking letter. If you look in the book, you'll see that. And it's usually, a letter. This doesn't represent point P. This just represents plane P. So that's one way you can name this. What's another way you can name the plane? By the 3 points. You can name it this way too. It means the same exact plane in this situation. Yes? Right, for a plane, if you have 3 points, you have to use 3 points. For a line, you only use 2. All right? Hold on just a second. Hold on just a second.
It was short because of all the disruptions. I need to learn.
I tell you what, I'm not going to give you this worksheet today. There's still a few things I need to talk about, so we'll do it. We'll finish this up tomorrow, and I'll give you homework tomorrow.